Hey guys, what's going on? This is Spiguyver Backpacking. I'm Mark, and today we're going to talk about a subject that may creep a few people out. You know, creepy crawlies tend to do that to some people, but it's a subject that I think needs to be discussed. And if you saw my Greenleaf Lake State Park hiking video, then you'll understand why this is important and why it's important to me. And the topic today is ticks. So we'll talk about different types of ticks, the different sizes of them, where they happen to live, some of the diseases they carry, symptoms of those diseases, types of prevention you can do, and what to do if you happen to get a tick on you. I know, a lot of stuff to cover, and it's kind of a yucky subject, but let's do this. All right, so what is a tick? So a tick is an 8-legged arachnid. So it's in the spider family, and it's a parasite. It's a parasitic. You're the host, or a dog, or a deer, even reptiles, amphibians, you know, anything that it can get on and suck the blood of can be the host. Their sole purpose is to feed off of blood in order to survive and lay more eggs so that we can have more ticks out there to annoy the hell out of us. They are found, some variety is found in every one of the 50 states of the US. So no matter where you are in the US, you will find ticks, and they will be there to annoy the hell out of you. So let's talk about the different types of ticks that are out there. Okay, so I have my computer with me so that I have all the research that I did all typed up onto a sheet here that I can relay to you guys and let you know what I found. So the most common types of ticks that you'll find in the US are the black-legged tick, also known as the deer tick, and that's in the eastern half of the US. So draw a line straight down the middle of the US. Everything to the east of that line probably has the black-legged tick or deer tick. The Lone Star tick, which is primarily the same type of area. A lot of them out there, and probably one of the more prevalent types of ticks out there. You have the American and the brown dog ticks, which are pretty much throughout the entire US. Now, the American dog tick is found a little bit less in the Rockies, whereas the brown dog tick is found everywhere in the US. The Gulf Coast tick, which is found along the Gulf Shore. So the Gulf Coast, all the way through Texas, Louisiana, all the way across all of Florida, and then up the eastern seaboard, up to about the DC, Delaware type area. So you've got those all there. The Rocky Mountain wood tick, which is, if you take a line, you take the bottom edge of Colorado across to Nevada, where it touches California, and you take that line and you take it straight up, that square that you just formed all the way up to the Canadian border, and it probably goes into Canada, but I'm just talking about the US right now. That square that you just formed, all that area is covered by the Rocky Mountain wood tick. And then you've got the western black-legged tick, which is primarily like the coastal area of California, Oregon, and Washington. So relatively small area that one covers there. The size of these ticks really varies pretty significantly depending on the age of the tick. Now, their stages of life are egg, larva or larval, nymph, and adult. Now, the seed ticks that I had when I was in the Greenleaf Lake State Park video, those are the larval stage of the Lone Star tick. And how I know they were the Lone Star tick is, according to the research I did, the Lone Star tick is the only tick variety that in the larval stage will attach itself to human hosts. The rest of them, it isn't until they get to the nymph stage, which is significantly bigger than the larval stage, that they'll attach themselves. So something to keep an eye on there. So after they hatch, Now, I don't know how big the eggs are. I don't think I've ever come across them. If the larval stage is as small as those little specks that I had, really they look like dust or little grains of dirt on your skin, but they move. The eggs have to be pretty small. So you've got the larval stage, like I said, about the size of a period at the end of a sentence in a book. So pretty small, hard to see. Once you get to the nymph stage, they get a little bit bigger. They'll be about the size of a poppy seed. So if you get a poppy seed muffin, those little seeds on top, that's about the size that a nymph stage is. So still pretty small. And then adult stage can range from, apple seed to about the size of pumpkin seed. So somewhere in that range, depending on the type, where you are, how long they've been around, that type of stuff. It's important to know where you are, what types of ticks you have in the area. So do a little bit of research before you go out so that you know. Thought I might have a tick on my foot, but it was just some grass rubbing across my foot. Wouldn't that have been a good chance to show you a tick up close and personal? So the problem with ticks is they really have no good purpose in life. Their purpose is to suck your blood or the blood of some other unsuspecting animal out there and to reproduce and cause more havoc to more people, more animals around the world. Pretty crappy. But the worst part is that they carry diseases, infections. Really, they're just nasty. So there are 3 types of ticks that really make up the majority of the cases that are out there. So of all the cases of diseases, bacterial infections, all the other stuff that's kind of spread out there, primarily it comes from 3 types of ticks. And those are the deer ticks, or the black-legged ticks, the dog ticks, and the Lone Star ticks. So those 3, which cover the entire U.S., are responsible for most of, I believe it's 95% of the cases that are reported out there of the different diseases. Now let's talk about which ones carry which diseases. So the black-legged or deer tick carries 5 things that people should look out for. So the first one is the babesiosis. It's rare, typically doesn't have symptoms. When it does, there'll be fevers, chills, sweats, headaches, body chills, body aches, loss of appetite, nausea, or fatigue. So those are all things that you can expect if you get bit by one that's infected with the babesiosis. Anaplasmosis is similarly rare and has similar symptoms. Next, we get into Borrelia miyamotoi. It's an infection. It was just discovered about 10 to 15 years ago. It's all over the U.S. and it causes a relapsing fever. Then we get into the 2 scary ones, the 2 that people are most worried about right now. Now, the first one is the Powassan. This is a virus that was discovered really in 1958 in Ontario, and so far, prior to 2017, there had only been 75 cases. From 1958 through 2017, 75 cases reported of this. Now, the bad part is it is a very serious and often fatal virus. So if you contract this, so here are the symptoms, okay? So it'll leave a rash around the bite mark. You'll have muscle aches and pains. So if you could just develop a rash, go see a doctor. Here's the bad part about the Powassan. 15% of the people who develop symptoms won't survive. It is fatal to 15% of the people who develop any symptoms at all. Of the people that survive, so that 85% that survive, over 50% of the people that survive will be stricken with long-term, non-reversible neurological damage. Not cool, not something anyone really wants to deal with. And then the last really alarming disease that the black-legged or deer tick carries is Lyme disease. Now, Lyme disease is pretty prevalent. Depending on whose research you read, it's between 30,000 and 300,000 cases of Lyme reported each year in the US. That is a lot of cases. I myself, 2 years ago, was one of those cases. Caught it early, saw the rash, immediately felt the fatigue and aches, went to the doctor, got put on the antibiotics, and have had no complications since. Early detection and getting in to see a doctor and get on antibiotics early is a big part of a full recovery. So Lyme disease is the most common tick-borne disease by far. Symptoms include fever, headache, fatigue, and the bullseye rash. If left untreated, it spreads to the joints, the heart, and the nervous system. You don't want it to get that far. If you've had a tick on you, watch the area. If you start to develop a rash, go see a doctor. Dog ticks, they spread Rocky Mountain spotted fever along with the Rocky Mountain ticks. So that one, there's about 500 cases of that a year. Symptoms include fever, malaise, and a rash. Can be fatal. And all the tick-borne infections, this one is actually the most commonly fatal. Of all the fatalities, all of them, 100% of the fatalities from Rocky Mountain spotted fever are needless. The reason they're needless, they're all preventable with antibiotics. Get on an early regimen of antibiotics if you suspect you've had a tick with Rocky Mountain spotted fever. If you've had a tick and you are in that area, just go get the antibiotics. So the Lone Star tick has it's got a few different diseases that it spreads, but a new one, really just in the last couple of years that has emerged, is the Southern Tick-Associated RAS illness, or STARI. Symptoms include fatigue, headache, fever, muscle pains, and a rash similar to Lyme. What's tough with this is that the Lone Star tick is the only tick that will bite humans at all three stages. So larval, nymph, and adult. And so you may not even know that you've had it on you until the itch starts. Itch is intense. But they are so small and so hard to see and to find that if you don't know you're in an area and you don't have hundreds or thousands of them on you, you may not know that you've even had it and been bitten. So when are ticks active? When are they out? When are they out, in the grass waiting for you to walk by to get on you? Well, pretty much all year long, especially depending on where you live. If you live somewhere that doesn't get below freezing, they're probably active all year long. They aren't very active when the temperatures get down to the freezing level. Prevention. Preventing the ticks ever getting on you is probably the best way you can go about protecting yourself and preventing any of these tick-borne illnesses from becoming a bad part of your life. The first, if you go out and you're in a tick-infected area, a lot of places will have signs that say, hey, wear long clothing. If you have long socks, tuck your pants into your long socks. That avoids the ticks from being able to get to your skin. Now, I will say, if you are in an area infected with the Lone Star tick and they are in the larval stage, they can go right through the fibers of your sock. Guaranteed. I've had it happen. They just burrow right through and get down to your skin to get to you. So, not the most effective way. So, how do you make it more effective? Well, permethrin. This right here is a great preventative method. Now, this is not something that you spray on yourself. This is something that you spray onto your clothing and gear prior to going out. So what I do is I will hang up a bunch of my gear in my backyard or somewhere, spray it all down, including my hammocks, anything that I think the ticks could get on as I'm hiking through. So clothing, hat, shoes, socks, even my underwear, because if they get underneath your clothes and get up in. They like to go to moist, warm areas. Think about that. You've got armpits, you've got groin. Those are areas you really don't want a tick ending up. So I spray it on all of my clothing. Now, it does not have any adverse effects to humans, and the only real worries you have with this is if you have a cat. So once it's dry, no worries at all, but in its liquid stage and when it's wet, it is very, very toxic to cats. So make sure you aren't exposing your cat to this while your gear is still wet. That's why I do everything outside, let it dry, then take it in. I've got a cat. My cat has been curled up with clothes that I have sprayed with permethrin. Once they're dry, they're good. This stuff does have to be reapplied, but not as often as you would think. It can withstand about 6 wash cycles. So effective, supposedly, and I haven't tried it, I haven't seen it, supposedly when you spray it on and you treat your clothes, at that point, if a tick gets on your clothes, it has between 5 and 30 seconds before it dies. I'm not sure that that's 100% accurate, but that's the claim. So this bottle here, you can get that just about anywhere, and it is made by Sawyer. This is the 12-ounce kit, and it says it treats 2 complete outfits. So an outfit is a shirt, pants, and socks. I also like to spray my shoes, my underwear, my hat, and any of my gear. So backpack, if you've got a backpack that can spray and absorb this, spray it down, go for it. Hammocks, for sure, because it's not just effective on ticks, it's actually effective on mosquitoes as well. So really good at keeping the bugs off of you while you're laying in your hammock. I'll spray the hammock body, the bug net, and really it keeps the mosquitoes from being right there buzzing in your ear all night long. So after that, it comes down to protection on your body. So there are a lot of different types of repellent out there that people claim repels ticks. Stuff from very, very safe, environmentally friendly things like this EcoSmart, which uses oils. It uses rosemary oil, geranium oil, cinnamon oil, lemongrass. So this one uses oil, says it's DEET free, says it keeps away mosquitoes, ticks, gnats, and more. And then you have things like lemon eucalyptus. Repel came out with a lemon eucalyptus. I've tried it. I've tried this one. No. All right, then you get into, just the off-the-shelf Cutter or Off or any of those other brand. Contains DEET. DEET, super, super effective. This one is 10% DEET. So is this one going to be good enough? So you can find between 5% DEET and 100% DEET out there on the market. 5% isn't going to last long enough to work. 100% is probably a little bit overkill. 10%, probably a little low. The recommended range for really being effective, especially if you're out doing any hiking, is 20 to 50%. So this 10%, if you're not doing anything too strenuous and you're just hanging out, may help somewhat. Better is to go with something like this Repel Sportsman. This one happens to be in a lotion. I like the lotion kind because you know that you've got full coverage. If you're using a spray kind, what I recommend is spraying it on and then rubbing it on as well so that you're making sure you're getting good coverage everywhere. But that's what I like about the lotion kind. It seems to be more, it has more longevity, I would say. So this one is at 40%, so right in that sweet 20 to 50%. If you're really looking for good coverage, this one here, this is Sawyer Maxi DEET. It is 98.11% DEET. So this one will get you covered with the DEET. Now, I will say, DEET is not the most friendly of substances out there. Very effective. extremely effective at repelling and keeping the ticks off of you. However, it is such a harsh chemical that if you get it on something that's a plastic like this, a nylon, anything like that, your shoes, any synthetics, it will melt it. It is that strong. There is another thing that's out there now. Sawyer sells it. This one is made by Natrapel, and it is picaridin. So I was using picaridin on the Greenleaf State Park video. Didn't seem to have a whole lot of effect on keeping those little seed ticks off of me. I've had other friends say that they use it and swear by it. Now, they say that the spray is not very effective, but the lotion is very effective. I have used both. I had the Sawyer brand in the lotion and this Natrapel as the spray, and still ended up with ticks on me, so I'm not sure I trust this anymore. DEET has been effective every time I've used it, so I think that's what I'm going with. So now that we've talked about preventive measures, what about those cases when you are out there and you still end up with a tick on you? What do you do? What are the signs to look for? Well, first, anytime you have a tick on you, you want to get it off as soon as possible. So tick-borne diseases, Lyme disease, that tick needs to be attached to your body 24 hours in order to transmit the disease. Take a contrast, the Powassan virus, 15 minutes. If the tick is attached to you for 15 minutes, it can transmit the Powassan virus. Both of those viruses have rashes associated with them. If you have a tick on you, or you have a spot that you believe there may have been a tick and it develops a rash, go see a doctor. Get it taken care of. Get on a round of antibiotics. In my case, when I went, I had the bullseye rash. I told them I had had a tick. I told them I was having some muscle cramps and some fatigue, and they didn't worry about testing to find out whether or not I actually had Lyme or whether or not the tick was infected, because some people will bring in the tick to have it sent off to find out whether or not it's infected. Just tell the doctor you want to get on the round of antibiotics. Now, I will tell you, the round of antibiotics, they're pretty harsh, they're pretty strong antibiotics, but they're effective and they work. So just get it done, get it taken care of. If it's on you, you want to try and get the whole thing off of you. So pulling it out, straight out, getting its head pulled out is the most effective technique. A lot of people say, you know, take little pointing nose tweezers and get really low and pull it out. I'll tell you, I haven't gone to those measures. I just want to get the damn thing out of me. So I reach down, I grab it, and I just yank it out. On those seed ticks, when you have hundreds of those things on you, I don't know how you would possibly go about getting them out. They're so small, you can't really differentiate a head between a body, between a leg. And really what I do with those is use something to scrape them off of me, because there's really no other way I found that's easy and effective to get them off. So a credit card, a knife, something with a sharp edge works pretty effectively there. Now, they do have new things called the Tick Key, which I've heard really good things about, and I actually think I'm going to go ahead and purchase one and maybe do a little review on it. They're anodized aluminum, and they've got a little cutout. I'll show you a picture. But yeah, it's got this little cutout. You slide it over the tick, kind of between your body and the tick, and then kind of pry it up like you're popping the top off of a beer. So pretty cool little device. Seems to be effective. They claim over a 99% effective rate on every different size of tick. Now, I'm not sure whether or not they've tried seed ticks, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and I think I'm going to order one of these and give it a try. Well, guys, that is my talk on ticks. Not a subject any of us like. Crappy little creatures that probably shouldn't exist anyway, and if we could find a way to get rid of them, I would be extremely happy. But they're here, and we've got to deal with them. We go out into the same woods that they're in. There are myths that they jump, that they fly, that they, you know, as you walk by, they leap out of the trees onto you. Not the case at all. They'll be found on branches, on trees, on leaves, on grass. on bushes, and as you walk by, they simply are dispensed from those places where they're hiding onto your skin. If you don't have hairy legs, or you don't have something for them to grab onto, it's a little bit easier to keep them off of you, but they're there and they're going to get on you. So have some way to protect yourself. Make sure you're covering yourself before you go out there. It'll make it a lot more pleasant experience. When you get them on you, get them off as quick as possible. If you develop any symptoms, any rash, go see a doctor. Those are my tips, and I hope you heed them. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you checking in, appreciate you watching this, and I will see you down the trail.